and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Folks, Daniel, force to vote. Do you remember that? Does everyone remember that? Does anyone kind of remember something called force to vote? Anyone? Yes? No?
I remember it was violence. I don't think there's anything past that. I think it was just violence. Anyone who was trying to get health care for Americans, any political means necessary, they were just evil. I don't remember more than that.
Well, here's the thing. So why am I bringing up force to vote? Well, once again, to the shock of people like Cenk Uygur and Sam Seder and everyone else who's part of that TYT, blue check mark, fake progressive leftist movement, turns out Jimmy Dore was once again correct. Not right, just correct on the fact on how powerful force to vote can be done. Now, AOC and the squad failed in their opportunity. There were 15 congressmen and women that were called upon by the movement for force to vote for Medicare for all by withholding their vote for Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker of the House to get a resolution, a bill put on the House floor for the House members to vote on at the height of a pandemic to start implementing Medicare for all. Now, again, those critics, especially Cenk and Sam, who were on board and then got a phone call probably to backpedal away from it.
Do you think Mike gets those phone calls too, or do they just tell him, like someone else tells him?
Dan, I'm going to give you the reenactment of
please, that'd be great. I would love to see that.
Hi, I'm Mike. How you doing? Mike, I need you to listen to me. Okay. You're going to be against force to vote. A slap in the face. That's it. All right? Not kindly, just slapping. Okay. There you go. That's the whole thing right there. But okay. Now, obviously, a lot of those critics who were against force to vote for Medicare for all, withholding their vote for Nancy Pelosi, there was this fear of, oh no, McCarthy's going to become Speaker of the House. Oh no, it'll never work. We got to be pragmatic. Well, here's the thing. It would have shined a light on the heartless politicians that would not have given their constituents or citizens Medicare for all. A lot of our politicians have gold-plated health care, six-figure salaries, and other wonderful social benefits. The squad and those other 14 progressive members, or quote-unquote progressives, got nothing in return from Nancy Pelosi or the Democratic establishment. Cenk Uygur, Sam Seder were wrong. The Democrats never did anything. They kept their powder dry for nothing. In fact, the powder is now dissipated. Blown away.
They sold off the powder, but still kept it on the books.
Now, again, why am I talking about force to vote? Well, it turns out now the GOP Freedom Caucus can possibly use their own way to get a force to vote to work for them. So what am I talking about? I want to pull up this video. And again, shout to Case Study QB, who's wrongly being censored.
Can I say real quickly?
Go ahead.
That how funny it is. Maybe if you're covering this, tell me to stop. How funny it is watching the same people that were like, we can't have McCarthy and take over Nancy Pelosi's seat, even though it couldn't have happened. But now that it looks like it's going to happen, they're like, hey, he's not the worst guy that could be leading the House.
Mm-hmm. So now, again, as I said before, and this is an outstanding video for that Case of the QB managed to capture from MSNBC. Will the GOP Freedom Caucus use the narrow GOP majority to force the vote? So force the vote. My goodness, are you telling me we're going to see the House GOP actually use force the vote that the squad failed to use?
I just figured out why they were against it. It's actually very five-head. Ready for this?
What's up?
Remember, we've learned now that whatever Republicans do, the Democrats are against. Hey, Republicans, there's a small group of Republicans that are against the war. We're for it even more. What actually happened, I didn't realize the genius of AOC until just now. AOC knew that in a year or in about a year from when she was saying it, that at some point the Republicans taking over the House were going to use force the vote, and that's why we can't use force the vote.
You know what? And see, here's the thing. Knowing how, again, uneducated the squad is, and let's face it, our Democratic lawmakers don't really care. They've already abandoned student debt forgiveness. You think they're going to do anything about women's reproductive rights? The answer is probably no. So I want to pull up this video here, and let's actually talk about how, again, the House GOP, especially the Freedom Caucus, can potentially use their force to vote.
If McCarthy is in a position where, say, he can now only lose, say, 3 votes, well then, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Matt Gaetz of Florida and Paul Gosar of Arizona they could become the three most powerful people in the House, demanding that McCarthy drag his party as far as possible to the MAGA fringe. Now, at this moment, this is kind of interesting. Greene is actually supporting openly McCarthy. She voted for him, and she's kind of campaigning for him, presumably because she knows how much power she will wield under his speakership. Gaetz, however, is not. Kind of a bad cop, good cop routine, if you ask me. Gaetz, in fact, just made the rounds of the right-wing podcast circuit to lobby against McCarthy, essentially promising to make a life a nightmare for him if and when he takes control.
What I'm here to tell you is there are definitely at least 5 people, actually a lot more than that, who would rather be waterboarded by Liz Cheney than vote for Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House. And I'm one of them. We cannot trust Kevin McCarthy. Whatever Kevin has promised Marjorie Taylor Greene, I guarantee you this. At the first opportunity, he will zap her faster than you could say Jewish space laser. And I wish that wasn't the case, but it is the conduct and it is the pattern and practice of Kevin McCarthy over years that showcase this.
You can just tell how much he really wants to be a podcast host, not a member of Congress.
Okay.
Wait, did he just say that? Doesn't he also bring in Congress people who have podcasts and gush about their podcasts? Isn't that guy too?
Yeah, something like that, Dan. And unfortunately, what we have to realize, especially when it comes down to these especially what we're seeing in the House, the Democrats are just going to let this happen. They really can do nothing. And also, real quick, we are kind of getting some background noise from you on your end, I believe.
That I can. Yeah, give me 1 sec. I can deal with that.
I shall remove you, and there you go. So there you go. All right, so folks, let me go ahead and pull up this next video here real quick in regards to how Kevin McCarthy now has a daunting, arduous task to at least maybe try and become Speaker of the House. So again, shout out again to Case Study QB, who's wrongly being censored on Twitter. Elon Musk fixed that right away. So again, shout out again to Case Study QB, who managed to find all these videos. So let's find out again how the Freedom Caucus can maintain their power. And I want to also give a shout out to Roger Meadows, who also mentioned this. Once I saw the Republicans take the House, the only thing that kept ringing in my head was me picturing the Freedom Caucus reciting Jay-Z's line to the squad, "I show you how to do this, son." So let's go ahead and play this video right here for the people.
Now is the time when every Republican in Washington starts bullying Kevin McCarthy. McCarthy is currently the Republican leader, so he is all but guaranteed to become Speaker of the House in January when the new Congress is sworn in. Mostly because anyone else capable of doing the job is, well, smart enough not to want it. As Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw of Texas told HuffPost, quote, "There's no other alternative." Today, the House had their preliminary secret leadership vote, the House Republican Caucus, and in that, McCarthy seemed to dispatch his only real rival, the far-right election denier Andy Biggs of Arizona. In that preliminary speakership vote, this is just within the Republican Caucus, 31 Republicans voted against McCarthy. That means he got 188 votes. He will need 218 to wield the Speaker's gavel, which is a vote of the full House of Representatives. And he now has to work tirelessly to get his party unified behind him. Now, this naturally gives the fringes of the Republican Party, the far-right Freedom Caucus, the unofficial MAGA Troll Caucus, an extraordinary amount of power. They can make or break McCarthy's speakership. They are going to maximize their leverage, and they are going to make him sweat a lot. And here's the thing. Whether they're doing it explicitly or implicitly, they are really wielding that power on behalf of Donald Trump to essentially force Kevin McCarthy's hand to do whatever the ex-president wants, to make him the shadow speaker. Trump is apparently already demanding McCarthy's complete fealty, at least according to his close advisor, Jason Miller.
What I would like to see, Steve, I do think that Kevin McCarthy needs to, if he wants to have a chance of being Speaker, he's being much more declarative that he is supporting President Trump. I thought what Elise Stefanik did yesterday was very smart. And the fact of the matter is, it's going to be a MAGA-centric caucus.
It's probably true. Now, even if McCarthy does cave and get behind Trump for 2024, that MAGA caucus is still going to make his life a living nightmare. That's not going to end it. One of the concessions that some of those folks, those far-right Republicans, are demanding on condition of supporting McCarthy for Speaker would be the return of a procedural rule, sort of obscure, but it's known as the motion to vacate the chair. And the thing about that is it effectively allows any member to submit a vote of essentially no confidence in the Speaker. way back in July of 2015, then Republican Congressman Mark Meadows filed a motion to vacate against then Republican Speaker John Boehner, which effectively forced Boehner into retirement.
And I'm going to pause it right there. Can you imagine if that was imposed upon Nancy Pelosi, if the squad wanted to do something, if the squad actually had a backbone? Can you imagine that? So when I read Roger Meadows' quote right there on Rockfin, thank you so much for that added to the conversation, Roger Meadows. I was thinking, wow, the Republicans are going to show us how it's done. The Democrats can never do this to their own leadership. Daniel, your thoughts?
So I think it's fascinating that crazy people can effectively use force the vote, but it's crazy to ask your reasonable Congress people to do the same.
Yeah. So again, we have a politician, we have a political system where the squad says they can't do anything, that we have to be pragmatic. You have people like Cenk Uygur who say Jimmy Dore is incorrect. You have people like Sam Cedar who are saying that force the vote doesn't work, but we're seeing force the vote work. And no, it's not for Medicare for all or any other progressive policy issue. It's in regards for the Freedom Caucus and its members to implement their own power to twist the arm of McCarthy. And McCarthy now has the dauntless task of keeping his party and his base happy. And look, leading back to Trump knows how to rally his supporters. Whether you like it or not, Trump is able to build up on his movement. He's able to fill up stadiums. He's able to get his political message out there. Whether you like it or not, he's able to get his people out there. And if his base is saying, I don't like this person in the House, they need to go, and the Speaker of the House is stopping Trump, all what Trump has to do is call up the Freedom Caucus, and they will do his bidding. You think people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are going to give a damn about procedure or being pragmatic? If Trump gives the call, he'll do it. Matt Gaetz, same thing. If Trump gives the call, they'll do it. Because, again, everyone wants to ride on board with the Trump train. And whether or not Trump still has the same power he held in 2016 and 2020 will be yet to be seen. But the fact that you have the Freedom Caucus right now putting this pressure on McCarthy before there's even a vote for who will be the next Speaker of the House, it says to me that force the vote could have been done, that the squad had the power. They really do have the following if they wanted to activate it, but they chose not to because they're part of the system as well.
Yeah, again, this goes to it's like there are no people that have ideologies anymore. It's just people who have teams. When, again, literally, if the GOP today said, hey, you know what? We're going to push for solar and wind farms.
Mm-hmm.
All that would happen is the Democratic Senate would go, no, we can't do that. In fact, we're doubling down on our investment in coal. The GOP could say, we should all continue breathing air, and half of the Democrats in the country would die of asphyxiation. That's the place we're in right now. We're not in a spot where any of this stuff is relevant. It's just what side is saying it. That determines the answer. So when we, a year ago, joined with everyone else and said, hey, we should try and force the vote and get everyone's name on a record so we knew who in this upcoming election was not for Medicare for all, try and vote some of them out, show our power, which is quite literally how Wheeler, the guy who got prohibition to pass, that's how he did it. And it was immensely effective.
Mm-hmm.
But no, who ran interference against us? The people that were supposed to, and on paper and verbally said they were our allies. They got a phone call and they decided we're not going in that direction. Because I would really like to get a ticket to the DNC next time it happens. Because I would really like to get someone on my show. TYT, how's that been working out for you? How many times has AOC gotten on your show since you offered to help? And now I think this goes into the story I'll be covering next, where I think there's a lot more pressure behind the scenes that's really just do what we say or we'll shut you down or make life just threats.
I also want to, again, pull this out. Look, controversial statement in 3, 2, 1. The Freedom Caucus has more of a backbone and more heart in their political message than the entire Congressional Progressive Caucus. Why? Because they want to have their seat at the table. They want to make their mark, and that means challenging leadership. That means challenging people in power and not being obedient. You know, I used to subscribe to this theory that the Republican Party was all uniformed and organized, and that they would never challenge leadership. But no, no. It will change leadership if said members feel that their leader, be it Speaker of the House, isn't doing the job that they subscribe to. Whereas the Democrats, they won't break ranks. They won't. They say they're a party of Big Tent and all these different people, but they will follow their marching orders from the DNC establishment to the Speaker of the House to again, who's ever really controlling the main Democratic narrative. They don't break ranks. They're not going to fight. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. He created this progressive revolution, and it just fizzled away into the Democratic machine to be eaten up and spit out. I got to give the Republican Party credit, and this is probably the one nice thing I'll say. At least if they want something done, they will kick out their leadership. They're not obedient. That's as far as I want to say in regards to being nice. The squad, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, don't have a backbone, and we're going to see the Freedom Caucus use their force to vote. And if McCarthy does remain in power, he's going to be on his knees, making sure that the Freedom Caucus is pleased with whatever decision he makes.
So one thing I would disagree with on that is they have a backbone, just like they're smart. It's just the backbone doesn't help us. I think it's an important distinction to make, because you know what happens when they have millions of Americans begging them for health care, begging them not to cancel the Trump checks. It takes a bit of a backbone to go, no, we're canceling those checks.
Yeah.
And they have a backbone. The problem is that they don't have a backbone. It's who they don't have a backbone to and who they have a backbone to. They have no backbone to. You know who I feel really bad for? All the Democrats. Their second biggest contributor, that crypto website, is no longer there to tell them what to do, and someone else is now going to have to fit in that fold. So it's like, it's again, they're both sides feed corporate interest.
Mm-hmm.
Just one pretends that they're against it, and other people believe them. Again, it's like with Republicans. We get it. We know where your allegiances are. We know you're here to help big business. Trump just represents a different, more chaotic angle of doing that than the standard order Republican does. That's really the difference. They're not arguing as much about policy changes. They're arguing vibe checks.
So go ahead, Dan.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Well, because I know we're kind of going a little bit over time, but there was a video I want to play of Pramila Jayapal where she's quoted saying the Freedom Caucus has always been the caucus of no. They have been the caucus willing to explode everything. And see, the thing is, okay, you're talking about democracy. We don't have a democracy. Do you think we have time to play, or we're going a little bit over time, Dan?
Well, we're 30 minutes into a 1-hour show. We may want to move on.
Yeah. So, okay. So, folks, you can find this link in the show notes description box below, but I'll leave you all to, I don't want you guys to think about this. Pramila Jayapal is the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and she couldn't get done anything. Nothing. No progressive policy passed under her watch. Under her watch, nothing fundamentally changed. And so the sad truth is the Freedom Caucus, they're going to want their policies implemented. And if they're going to be all in line for Trump, that speaker, be it McCarthy or whoever else, will be beholden to them. They're going to use their power. And while they're willing to explode everything, they're going to get everything that they want, because they will twist the arm of the leadership to be obedient to them and their constituents and their diehard supporters.
By the way, just to kind of like bring this full circle before we move on to the next segment, Jordan is now live talking about Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, really?
It's already happening. It's already back to how it was. As if we've learned nothing about why all these things are happening. At the end of the day, it always comes down to, hey, the people are suffering, and they're looking for someone to solve their suffering. Democrats aren't doing that. They're already aligned with Republican. That's the direction they go. They're going to trust the demagogue who says that he's going to alleviate their suffering. It can't be that. It just has to be Trump's a mythical genie who could control people's mind. Yeah.
With a final note for this story, I had hope that things would be better, and I was wrong.